Emotional detachment is often misunderstood. People assume it means someone is cold, distant, or incapable of love. But in most cases, it's not a personality trait. It's a psychological response. It's what happens when someone learns, often very early in life, that feeling deeply is unsafe. Emotional detachment usually begins as protection. Imagine growing up in an environment where emotions created problems instead of comfort. Maybe anger led to shouting. Maybe sadness was dismissed. Maybe vulnerability was ignored or punished. Over time, the brain adapts. If expressing emotions leads to pain, the safest solution is simple: reduce emotional expression. This is not a conscious decision, it's a survival mechanism. Children who grow up in emotionally unpredictable environments often become highly controlled. They appear mature, independent, self-sufficient. They don't ask for much, they handle things alone. But what looks like strength is often suppression. Instead of processing emotions, they learn to minimize them. Instead of seeking connection, they rely on self-containment. Instead of reacting, they observe. As they grow older, this pattern becomes identity. They describe themselves as not very emotional. Others describe them as calm under pressure, logical, grounded. And in many situations, this works. Emotional detachment can create stability. It can prevent impulsive reactions. It can make someone appear strong in crisis. But there is a psychological cost. Because emotions don't disappear when ignored, they get stored. Research in trauma psychology shows that when emotional experiences are repeatedly suppressed, the nervous system adapts by lowering emotional intensity overall. This is closely linked to what psychologists call the freeze or shutdown response. Most people are familiar with fight or flight, but freeze is different. Instead of reacting outwardly, the system reduces internal activation. It creates numbness. Numbness feels calm, but it is not the same as peace. Peace is the presence of regulation. Numbness is the absence of access. This becomes especially visible in relationships. An emotionally detached person may care deeply about their partner, but struggle to express it. They may avoid conflict, not because they don't care, but because emotional intensity feels overwhelming. They may withdraw during arguments. They may struggle to identify what they're feeling in the moment. This is not indifference. It is emotional overload managed through shutdown. Over time, partners may feel unseen or disconnected. They may say things like, "I can't reach you," or "It feels like you're not fully here." And the detached person is often confused by this. They believe they are present, they are physically there, they are loyal, they are responsible. What they don't realize is that emotional availability requires access to internal states, and detachment limits that access. The deeper issue is not the absence of emotion, it is difficulty tolerating emotion. When someone has learned that strong feelings lead to instability, rejection, or chaos, their nervous system treats emotional intensity as a threat, so it reduces it. The problem is that this reduction doesn't target only negative emotions. You cannot selectively numb pain without also numbing joy. You cannot suppress vulnerability without limiting intimacy. You cannot shut down fear without dulling excitement. That is why emotionally detached individuals often describe a persistent sense of flatness. Life feels manageable but muted, safe but distant. And sometimes this system holds for years until something breaks through it. A loss, a breakup, a major life event, something powerful enough to bypass the shutdown response. When that happens, emotions can surface all at once. Grief that feels overwhelming, anger that feels unfamiliar, fear that feels destabilizing. This often surprises the person most. They believed they were not emotional. In reality, they were emotionally restricted. Detachment is not the absence of depth, it is depth without access. The important thing to understand is that emotional detachment is not a flaw, it is an adaptive response. At some point in life, it likely helped. It reduced chaos, it increased control, it created stability in unstable environments. But strategies that help us survive childhood do not always serve us in adulthood. Connection requires vulnerability. Intimacy requires emotional presence. Growth requires feeling. Healing from emotional detachment does not mean becoming overly reactive or losing control. It means gradually rebuilding emotional tolerance, learning to identify feelings without judging them, allowing discomfort without shutting down. It means teaching the nervous system that emotions are not threats, that vulnerability does not equal danger, and that strength is not defined by how little you feel, but how safely you can feel it. If you have ever been described as too calm, if people struggle to read you, or if you find yourself disconnected even in important moments, it may not be because you lack emotion. It may be because you learned to protect yourself from it. And protection, while powerful, is not the same as connection. Real strength is not emotional absence. It is emotional access.